So when we have acetyl coenzyme A, it enters into the Krebs cycle. That's the next step. It's going to enter into the Krebs cycle, the TCA, or the citric acid cycle, whichever term you want to use. And it's a cycle because, as you can see here, it goes through a series of reactions and comes back to the original chemical reaction. And it does it twice. So 2 rounds of the cycle is the Krebs cycle. And it occurs in the inner part of the mitochondria. So if you look at the mitochondria, you see this inner membrane that's kind of squiggly around here. So it happens inside the mitochondria. And it's, again, a circular pathway of chemical reactions. And so you get these byproducts. Once acetyl coenzyme enters into the mitochondria, then the Krebs cycle is going to happen and you get CO2 as a byproduct, which is one of the waste products, and that's how we generate CO2 that needs to be exhaled. The other things that kind of come from this are going to be hydrogen ions. And so, again, we have these shuttles, NAD, that are going to bind hydrogens and take them to the next step, electron transport chain. And in this case, we introduce another shuttle called FAD. And FAD, the benefit for FAD is it will bind 2 hydrogens at a time, whereas NAD can only bind 1 hydrogen. So it can carry an additional hydrogen. So the NAD and the FAD are going to grab these hydrogens and take them to the electron transport chain. The electron transport chain is going to basically use these hydrogen ions to make a concentration gradient of hydrogen ions, which is going to be, if you recall, a type of energy. So the concentration gradient itself is going to be a potential energy that the mitochondria can use to make ATP. So what happens then in the electron transport chain? Well, this actually occurs at that inner membrane, that squiggly membrane on the inside of the mitochondria. And what happens is those hydrogens that have been given off through glycolysis and the Krebs cycle, they're going to be transported to this membrane by the FAD and the NAD. And there's a series of proteins in this inner membrane that will basically, like I said, generate a concentration gradient of hydrogen ions. And so the protein transporters here in the membrane, they're titled electron carriers, will push these hydrogen ions out and generate a concentration gradient. So you can see here that there's all these hydrogen ions in the outer compartment. See if I can write this in here. Outer compartment, which is indicated by the yellow or cream color. And then there are fewer hydrogens inside. So this is the innermost region of the mitochondria. And so as these hydrogen ions are pumped out, then it creates a concentration gradient. And this is really all I want you to know, is that then the membrane harnesses the energy or uses the energy from this concentration gradient to basically add a phosphate group to ADP and give us ATP. And in this process, part of making the concentration gradient is going to require oxygen, okay? And so just know that oxygen is required in the electron transport chain to help make water and harness that energy to make the phosphate bond for ATP.